We are now 4 episodes in, roughly halfway through the season, and we are finally starting to get into the proverbial meat of the story, no pun intended. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm back with a spoiler-free review for Episode 4 of HBO Max's The Last of Us series, and we pick up where the last episode leaves off, with Joel and Ellie basically continuing their travels westward to Salt Lake City in the truck that Joel got from Bill at the end of the episode. So a little bit spoilerish on the last bit of episode 3, but pretty much the end of episode 3, if you've not watched it by now, is Joel and Ellie take some weapons from Bill's place, they take his truck, and they continue their journeys westward, pretty much. And that's where the story picks up. We're following Joel and Ellie as they make their way, and they get to Kansas City, Missouri. And that's where they face a group that gamers will know from playing the game that normies will not realize because they are not, there's no name drop or anything like that, pretty much, but maybe a little bit of a spoilerish, a little bit of information, but Joel and Ellie encounter a group called the Hunters. Now, from what I remember in the game, the Hunters themselves are pretty much just proverbial cannon fodder, so to speak, for Joel and Ellie and so forth to get through, to continue their, like I said, journey towards Salt Lake City, and so you really don't have any sort of interaction with them. They really have no significance other than that to the game. So what Neil Cuckman and his little writing team did is create a character completely made up for the series by the name of Kathleen. Now, what significance she's going to have to the story, I have no damn clue whatsoever at this point, because she's completely made up for this series. She's not in the game, and for some reason she's looking for someone called Henry. Gamers, a little bit spoilers here as well, gamers who've enjoyed The Last of Us, who know the game, will pick up on that name, and that would be Henry and Sam. But the difference being here, from the game to the series, is a lot of this interaction that we faced in the game, particularly with the Hunters and meeting Henry and Sam and so forth, minus Kathleen, is that it takes place in the Northeast area. Not necessarily that far away from the Boston QZ. But for some reason, they transplanted that scenario more into the West, more in the Central West, pretty much, in Kansas City, Missouri, and then included a completely made-up character who has her own agenda, because we see her, when we initially see this Kathleen character, she's interrogating what we find out to be a doctor. A doctor who's also known Kathleen literally since she's been born, and for some reason she thinks this guy knows information about the whereabouts of certain individuals. Now, why she's looking for these individuals, I have, again, no damn clue, because in my opinion, now if you enjoy this series, Godspeed, more power to you. I'm not going to tell anybody what they can and cannot enjoy, but at the same time, we have no idea why she's looking for these people, in particular looking for Henry, because the show has not found a good balance between showing and telling. Now, I get the fact that for the normie audience, you kind of have to tell some of the information a bit, because they're not going to pick up on certain things, they're not going to pick up on the name Henry, they're not going to pick up on the group and realize that they're called the Hunters and so forth once Joel and Ellie interact with them initially, and the scenario itself, that's what's going to be happening in the next episode, so gamers can kind of pick up on clues and figure out where the scenario is going to be heading a little bit into in the next episode, but normies aren't. So you kind of have to tell a little bit, and they don't do that. Again, they're kind of relying too much on those who've played the game knowing where the story's going to go, so they're not going to really bother on enough exposition, at least in dialogue, to help those who might not remember the game that well, or don't know the game, period, to kind of pick up on things and be able to follow along. Combine that with the fact that you also have people who enjoy the series and want to go play the game, because we've seen sales for Last of Us Part 1 spike recently, but then again, the normie audience who are going to be playing the game, who haven't played it at all or in a while, are going to be wondering, why are Bill's Frank's characters different? Why is this scenario taking place further west when it takes place in the Northeast region? Where's this Kathleen character? She's not in the game. Why is his daughter race swapped in the series? Why is it that the virus itself is transmitted via spores in the game, but you have it like a hive mind and root scenario, so to speak, in the series? Not exactly a faithful adaptation so far. And also combine that with the fact that they gave the explanation in the previous episode that this all started because of infected, tainted flour and grain that we somehow, for some fucking reason, imported from Indonesia. Never mind the fact that we produced our own. And we sure as hell would have produced our own back in the early 2000s. Forgetting the fact that we're under the Biden administration at this point. We certainly would have produced our own back in the early 2000s. We wouldn't have had to import it from Indonesia. Fungus does not thrive in dry environments. It thrives in moist, damp environments, which is why the spores made sense, because they would become airborne and be dispersed that way over long distances, which would have resulted in the infection spreading as it did. Doesn't make any fucking sense in my opinion. Now they add a completely new character. What her reason is, other than being a face for the hunters? Maybe we'll find out in the next episode. Who knows? Who the fuck knows, because things have been changed. Elements have been changed from the game to the series, but just because it's visually better acted than other series like Rings of Power and Halo and Netflix's Resident Evil does not necessarily make it good, in my opinion. I think this show is middling at best. It's not completely horrible, but at the same time, I don't think it's as great as people are making it out to be. And we are now halfway, roughly, through this series. We're finally getting into more of the meat of the story, right? More of the meat of the story, more of the connection between Joel and Ellie, and what's going to happen? We have 5 more episodes. Last episode was pointless filler, in my opinion. Is the next episode going to be filler as well until we finally get to, again, the gist of the story back into the series? I don't know, but we'll see. But at any rate, what are your thoughts down in the comments below? Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? Are you kind of in the middle? What is your take? What are your thoughts on the addition of a completely new character, putting a face to the hunters as a group, which means they will likely have more of a story behind that group, like I said, versus them just being proverbial cannon fodder in the game. Who really knows at this point, because there's so many changes from the game to the series so far that, again, cannot say it is a faithful adaptation like Neil Cuckman and others have claimed, pretty much. It is not a faithful adaptation. But at any rate, let me know all that fun stuff down in the comments below. I'll be live later tonight on Twitch. My Twitch is Jade_Fire, playing some Warzone with others about 7 p.m. Eastern, so tune in for that. And try to put videos out later on in the week, and check out live streams on Twitch and YouTube this week, in particular Wednesday, where we do the 1s and 2s discussion streams, with this Wednesday being RoboCop, the first RoboCop movie. So if you want to participate in the chat and you can't really remember the movie that well, you have through Wednesday, up until 8 p.m. Wednesday, to have the movie watched, so you are not spoiled by anything that we discuss. So, there it is. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. Share on social media if you will. This is Mara Jade. Catch you on the dark side. And, again, finally getting into the meat of the story, no pun intended, but still not filling, in my opinion.